Hello, Courtney Holland.
Hi, Emily White. Happy Sunday, dear.
Happy Sunday. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into That Wasn't the Plan. We are so delighted to have you here today.
Absolutely.
Did you have a good weekend so far?
So far, so good. I'm excited to be home and relaxed. We were in North Carolina yesterday. My husband just really wanted to paint the back of my parents' house, their stairs, and fix all the rust. So we went there with some guys, and they worked their tushes off from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., just making it look like a brand new. He just was like, "Yeah, I've been wanting to do this for 3 years." So we just went and did it yesterday. So if you have any rusty spots, he can handle it.
Yeah, my whole house. Well, I had an opportunity to go out to Lake Washington yesterday and swim around.
Ooh.
And while we were just kind of floating in the water, this family of ducks floated past us. And the little ducklings are, I'd say, medium-sized, if you will. I would imagine they're probably 3-ish months old. I think it was about 3 female or 3 hens and then a number of ducklings who passed us. And then on the way back, there was only 1 hen and 3 ducklings. So they must have just been after school dropping someone off and then coming back. But it made me really excited because our guest today is the world's leading expert in duck biology. And so I got really excited for our guest. And let me introduce her real quick. We are very fortunate to have with us today Dr. Patricia Brennan, or Patty, who was born and raised in Colombia, where she received her bachelor's degree in marine biology. Wow. She has a PhD from Cornell University in neurobiology and behavior. And after her undergrad, she spent more than a year living aboard the RV Odyssey, a 98-foot research ketch.
Wow.
She is a full professor of biological sciences at Mount Holyoke College. Okay. She runs a lab studying genital coevolution across vertebrates, birds, snakes, bats, dolphins, sharks, skates. She is best known publicly for her research on duck reproductive biology. She's been featured in the New York Times, National Geographic, The Guardian, Scientific American, Slate, NPR. And in 2013, her NSF-funded research was singled out by Fox News' Sean Hannity and Sarah Palin as, quote-unquote, wasteful government spending. And she responded with an op-ed in Slate titled, "Why I Studied Duck Genitalia," that went viral and became a rallying point for basic science funding, which is so important. She is featured in the upcoming documentary Second Nature, and she told me the title of your podcast could be the byline for my scientific career. And that is why she is here today. So welcome, Patty. Welcome to the podcast.
Yay, Patty.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you guys for inviting me. Hi, Emily. Hi, Courtney. It's so good to meet you guys.
Oh, it's so good to see you. And thank you. I know that you are all over the world these days. I forget, are you in Colombia right now or you're heading there soon?
No, I'm heading to Colombia. Yeah, okay. But I have been all over the place collecting genitalia from all sorts of different creatures, which is what I get to do. It's a lot of fun, actually.
It's so cool. It's so cool.
So cool. It's not a sentence I've ever heard or probably ever will hear. I'm traveling around just collecting genitalia.
I know.
Love it. Love that genitalia.
Well, and the thing is that, like, when somebody's animals die and they're all very sad and depressed because, their precious animal is dead, I'm like, yay, I get their genitals. And so I feel a little bit like Dr. Frankenstein because
are the genitals ready?
I know, exactly. It's like, give me the genitals. They're mine.
That is fascinating.
So
all kinds of animals then.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Oh my God, I can't. Yeah, we need to get into that. But first, I kind of want you to take us back to Colombia where you grew up. Tell us about your kind of upbringing, like where you were in Colombia, what the sights and smells and all of that was like growing up.
Yeah, so I grew up in Colombia in a family with 4 sisters, and I went to an all-girls Catholic high school. It was a very religious, but also very supportive environment. Latinos, we are all about family and community and all that jazz. And so that was great. But in my entire family, there was not a single biologist, right? Like nobody was into biology. And I was the fourth of 5 girls.
Wow.
And my sisters would terrorize me all the time when I was growing up because I was one of the younger ones, right? And I learned that when we were outside, like if I grabbed any kind of creepy, crawly creature, I could scare off all of my sisters.
Oh my God.
And chase them around with like frogs and bugs, and then they would leave me alone. And so I became a budding biologist basically out of self-defense.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That could be the coolest story I've ever heard. That's how it started.
That's how
Wow.
it started. And then when I was 13, we grew up in Bogotá.
Okay.
And when I was 13, my dad took us on our first vacation to the ocean.
Okay.
And we went there and he booked a snorkeling trip for everyone. And it turns out everyone chickened out except me. And everyone was like, I'm not going in there. Like, there are sharks in there or who knows what. And they were like, no, no, no. And I was like, oh, I'm going. And so I went with the guide and he took me by the hand and we went snorkeling in these reefs just off the coast of Colombia. And it was the most spectacularly beautiful thing I had ever seen in my life. Because, Bogotá is a big city. It's noisy. It's ugly. We have like pigeons and stray dogs and that's it. But the ocean was a whole other universe that I just discovered sort of in that moment. And after we were snorkeling for a few hours and I almost didn't get out of the water. And I remember I asked the guy and I said, what do I have to do if I want to look at this all the time? And he said, well, you'll have to become a marine biologist then. And I was like, okay, great. I'm going to become a marine biologist. And so, that part of my story was according to plan. That's exactly what happened. I went to school and all I ever wanted to do was to be a marine biologist. And I went to school and I became a marine biologist. And so it was phenomenal. It was it's such a wonderful, beautiful ocean. Wow. And the ocean life is incredible. And so that was great. Everything was fantastic. And then I had this opportunity to join this boat, as Emily was saying, that was doing research in the Galapagos.
Wow.
They were studying whales and dolphins. And I was like, perfect. Because all I wanted to do was to leave Colombia and just go scuba dive around the world.
Yes.
That was all I wanted to do.
That's what all I want to do right now.
Me too. Me too. Collect genitalia.
Yeah. And it also, there were other things in my mind as well. Like I remember in Colombia, and in my family in particular, it was a very traditional household. My dad worked. My mom was a stay-home mom. And I remember thinking, that sucks, man. Like, I don't want to have that life. I didn't see myself as being somebody's wife and having a bunch of kids and just staying behind while my husband was working. And, my mom was awesome, actually. She would always tell us, this was my choice. I made this choice, but it doesn't have to be your choice, right? And I took that to heart, really. And I was like, no, I'm out. I'm not going to marry and have a bunch of kids and, be raising the kids while my husband goes out. I was like, no, I want to be the one going out and having adventures and scuba diving. And so I left to do exactly that.
Wow. That is so empowering that your mom said that to you.
Yeah.
I
know.
This was my choice. It doesn't have to be yours. That's incredible.
Exactly. And all of my sisters, we all sort of fledged the coup and then we went to do our own things. And it was a very good way. And also because I was in this all-girls Catholic high school, there was something really interesting about it, which was that I grew up seeing women being able to do everything and being the best at everything, right?
So cool.
So sports and computers and math and physics, and we were all women and we were all the best, right?
Yeah,
and it had never even occurred to me that anybody would doubt that was, of course, the case, that women could do everything and could do everything in sort of an amazing way.
Yeah.
And then I got to college and I was like, oh, wait a minute. Like people don't really think that women are like at the top of everything. And it was a kind of like a rude awakening, but it had already been part of my upbringing, this idea that, of course, you get to go and have your adventures and do whatever you want to do because you can do it.
That's fantastic. Oh my gosh.
So cool. Wow.
So you joined the Odyssey, and the Galapagos was it the first stop on the world tour, if you will?
Exactly. Yeah, the Galapagos was the first stop. I had fudged the truth just a little bit because I was asked if I spoke English. And I could sing Madonna. I could sing Madonna songs really well.
Yes.
I don't think that quite counts. But I was like, sure, yeah, I speak English. I could read scientific articles in English well enough.
Yeah.
But actually, when I got on that boat, I realized I was one of two people basically who spoke Spanish. And I was the only woman on the boat as well. It was basically a crew full of men.
Oh boy.
And it was really interesting because I got there and the captain gave me this talk about how he didn't like to have couples on board because people fight and you're living on a sailboat, and so then they make life miserable for everyone. And I was like, oh dude, I have a boyfriend. Like, I was seeing someone in Colombia, and originally I was going to go for a month. This was supposed to be a month-long trip.
Okay.
But then I found out that that's what they tell everybody, that it's just a month-long trip, just in case you really suck and then they don't want to get stuck with you. You know what I mean? Because you're living on a boat. Like, you don't want to live with someone who's like a total jerk.
True.
So I was like, no, I'm seeing someone. Like, I have no interest in getting together with anyone. And I get there and I was the only woman, and out come all these men from all over the world.
Oh,
and they were all beautiful and tan. And I was like, oh my gosh, what has happened here? It's right. And so then, this guy comes out that I was like, oh, who is this cutie? And I was completely like head over heels falling all over this guy. And it turns out, we just had our 30th wedding anniversary.
That's hilarious, Patty. He was like, no couples. And you're like, no problem.
No
and then
problem.
this hottie walks out and you're like,
no, I swear, I could not keep my hands off this guy. He was like he was the most beautiful man I had ever seen. And he was like super smart and super capable. And so I was like completely, taken by this man who is
so
not part of
cool.
my plan, because remember, I was never going to get married. I was never going to have children. So that was when things started changing, really. Was really finding this relationship that was weird because he didn't speak much Spanish. I didn't speak much English, but we got together and it was fantastic. And, we're still together very happily.
That's amazing.
Where was he from and what's his name?
He's from the U.S. So he grew up in the suburbs of New York, and his name is Bernard. And hence my last name, right? Because I'm Colombian. So my last name is actually Rodriguez, right? So I'm Patricia Rodriguez.
Yeah.
But his last name is Brennan. So it's hilarious because my name is Patty Brennan, which is like the most Irish name in the world.
For real.
So people invite me to do stuff. Seriously, they invite me to do all these things, and they're expecting like a red hair full of freckles.
Yeah.
And I show up and they're like doing a double take. They're like, wait a minute, you're not a Patty Brennan. And I'm like, well.
I like your American accent too. You did that great. You're not a Patty Brennan.
That's right.
That's perfect. Wow. Well, heck yeah. That's so romantic. I mean, I love the empowering part, but I also like the romance. So that's really sweet.
Just you can't plan for these things. Truly, like, just it just happened. And it was such a spectacular place, the Galapagos, really.
Gosh.
It is.
I think, it would have been hard not to. Yeah.
Yeah. I was fortunate to go there back in 2020 in February for 8 days, I believe. And I swam. I'm an open water swimmer. And so we stayed on a few different islands. And then every day we got on a boat and we went to another island and we swam along the coast or from island to island. And it was just incredible. I feel that's a bucket list item. Has always been for me. And I feel very fortunate to have gone there. And
that is
good for you. Yes. I haven't been back after all these years, and I'm a little scared of going back just because I know it has changed so much since the time when we were there. When we were there, there was no development, there was nothing. Those towns were like, dirt roads
Yeah.
and now they're like real cities. And so,
Yeah.
They are, yeah. We didn't actually stay in any of the bigger towns or cities, but yeah, it was big enough to, restaurants and hotels to make you feel like,
Wow.
tour. It was open for tourism. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, how long were you actually on the boat for the Odyssey?
So we ended up doing a couple of different trips. So we were on a
Okay.
trip in the Galapagos for a little over a year. And
Okay.
then we left and we came to the States to kind of write up our results and write our report for the non-for-profit that ran the boat, was the Well Conservation Institute at the time, which is now called the Ocean Conservancy. We were doing all of that and at the same time getting permits and applying to go on a different trip to the Cocos Islands off the coast of Costa Rica, which is also another archipelago like out in the middle of nowhere. And so we did that and then we went back on board and we stayed for another few months around the Cocos Islands. But then what happened, again, in another completely different transformation, because up until that point, I was still planning on just selling the ocean blue, literally.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And what happened is we were looking always for whales and dolphins, and I was a marine biologist on the boat, so I was supposed to know all of these species that we were seeing. And there is a group of whales called beaked whales, which are deep divers, and so you almost never see them. And when you see them come up for air, and then they go back down, and you never see them again. So most of the time you write unidentified beaked whale. But in this particular trip, it was a mama with a baby.
Oh.
She had just had a baby. And so they were up in the surface and they were not diving. And so they were up there and I'm out there like trying to identify this whale. And I have all my books out and I'm like, what is it? What is it? And I couldn't find it in any of my books. And I was like, oh man. So we took lots of pictures. And when we came back to shore, we sent the pictures to a guy who's an expert on this group of whales, on beaked whales in California, who works for NOAA, Bob Pittman. And we sent him the pictures and we said, can you help us? Just tell us what it is so we can put it in our records. And he goes, I have no idea. And we're like, what? And it turns out, long story short, it was the first live sighting of a whale that had only been identified by its skull. And I was like, I know. So the only thing we had seen of this whale was like the skull, and that's how it had been classified. And look at your faces. Like that was exactly like, imagine that you're like.
I can't even imagine. Wow.
I was like, did we just like discover a friggin' whale?
Yeah.
But it's a whale. Like how can it be that there are whales in the ocean that we still haven't seen, that we haven't
laid your eyes on?
Wow. I've got a friend. Her name is Elizabeth Henderson. She's also a marine biologist, and she was part of a group about 2-ish years ago down in the Gulf of Mexico, who discovered a new whale species as well.
It was just like a subspecies of Brutus, or it had been misidentified as a Brutus whale, right? And then they were like, oh no, it's like its own thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think, I remember the story, because since then there have been like 4 or 5, different species of new whales that have been described. So that right there was the change of everything.
I can't even imagine.
I had no idea that there were these huge things that could still be discovered. When you learn, and especially like in the kind of learning that I did in biology, I memorized a ton of stuff, right? And I knew that, I could tell you all the families of fish and all the families of algae. I knew them all by memory. So I was like, we know everything already, right?
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden you find out that there is a whale out in the ocean that nobody knew about. And I was like, I want more of that. That was awesome. How do I get to go out and build a life in which I can discover these big
things.
I know, exactly. And at the time, I didn't even know what a PhD was, because again, in Colombia, we don't have, at that time, we didn't have PhDs. Now we do.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't even know what that was. And so I started talking to people and asking them, and I was like, okay, so how do I do more of this? What is the path that I have to follow, and to be the boss, to get to decide where do we go? Like, I want to be the person who says, the boat is going to go there now.
Yeah.
What do I need to do in order to do that? And so people were like, well, you need a PhD. And I was like, what is that? And so I was I was learning.
Yeah.
And so then that's when I decided that I really wanted to become a scientist and come back. And so I came back to the States and I started applying for graduate school. And Cornell University took us both, me and my husband,
Wow.
as graduate students. And so that's where we went.
That is
And
so
you
cool.
intended to continue studying marine mammals at Cornell.
Exactly.
And then
yeah.
you actually switched to birds.
Woo!
I know. It feels like a big switch, but trust me, it wasn't that big a switch because I picked the hardest bird that you can ever imagine. So it was like a whale. It was like studying a whale. Like you hear it, but you don't see it.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. Like a ghost. I like it.
It was like a ghost. Exactly. The reason why I changed made a lot of sense, but I was at Cornell, and of course, at Cornell, there are a lot of people who study birds, right? It's like an epicenter of bird research.
Oh, okay.
And so the guy who became my advisor, Steve Emlin, who's an amazing ornithologist, he said, if you try to do work with whales, you would need gazillions of dollars. You need a boat, and you would need years and years and years to collect good enough data to do a behavioral project, which is what I wanted to do. So he said, no, why don't you study birds? Birds are pretty cool. And you could find a bird that people don't know much about and try that. And I was like, okay, that sounds good. I love birds. I'm from Colombia, so we have like one of the highest diversity of birds in the world.
Oh,
so I was
wow.
like, okay, I can find a bird in Colombia, so I can visit my family on the way in and out.
Yeah.
And so I opened the Birds of Colombia book, and then the very first page is family Tinamity, which are these tinamou birds. And it said something like, the males do all the parental care. This is exclusive male care. They lay bright, beautiful eggs. The females are completely emancipated, so they just seem to like go around giving different males eggs. But we don't know very much about them because they're very hard to study.
Okay.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. Right? Because exactly like what you were doing, Courtney, I was like, I want to know how those females get away with that. Like they just have like multiple males and they just go and give everybody an egg and then they're like, see you,
Later, have fun with that.
That's right. I was like, okay, that's kind of cool because most
That is
birds
so cool.
have biparental care. So both the male and the female help out. So a species where it's just the male doing everything, I was like, that's super cool.
That's
really cool.
So I basically ended up, again, because I was an outsider, I think if I had known anything about birds, I would have never picked this bird because it was too hard. It was too hard, but I didn't know anything. And I was like, I want to make my own project. I don't want to do something that somebody else is already doing. I'm going to start with like something totally different.
That's great.
And it worked out perfectly because I was able to study him. I mean, it was sweat, blood, and tears. Don't take me wrong. It was like the hardest thing.
Couldn't imagine.
So you were studying them in the rainforest. Which country were you in?
Yeah, so I started in Colombia, actually.
Okay.
Cool.
But then I had to switch because the political situation in Colombia in the 90s, if you guys remember, wasn't very safe, and especially for a woman working alone in the field. It just wasn't going to be possible for me to go to a lot of the places where the birds actually were. So I ended up going to Costa Rica, and I did my work at La Selva Biological Station, which is paradise on earth. It's just one of the most incredible places, full of all kinds of creatures. And that's where I did my project.
Wow.
And so you were there in the Costa Rican rainforest. Like, what time of day with it? Who were you with? And what were you actually doing when you saw them mating? Now we're gonna get to it. We're gonna get to it now.
We're gonna get to it. We're gonna get to it.
Talk about it.
And so here I am studying these crazy hard birds, but I got into my rhythm, and then I could stay far enough that they wouldn't necessarily run away from me all the time. And I was watching them one day, and I saw them mate. And if you ever see birds mating outside your window, if you have a bird feeder or whatever, they come in and they do something called the cloacal kiss, which is their little cloacas, which are their one opening for everything. Just come in and they touch very quickly, and then the male transfers sperm in that brief moment. So it's a very quick business. But with the tinamous, the female was laying on the ground. The male got on top of her, and he's kind of like threading on top of her back. And then he lowers his cloaca, and he grabbed her by the neck. And they got up together, and they're kind of like walking together, like stuck together. And I was like, what? What's happening? What is this? And then they separated, and I saw this giant thing hanging off of his cloaca. And I was like, oh, he has worms. I thought he had parasites.
Oh.
Because he was a white, kind of curly, long, thin thing. And I was like, that looks like a worm. I was sure it was a worm. And then he started like pulling it back into his cloaca. And I was like, oh, it's a penis. I was like, no, but how can it be a penis? Birds don't have penises. Do birds have penises? And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to find out. I need to find out this piece of information.
Incredible.
And so when I came back from the field, I would hit the library and I was like looking for anything I could find about bird genitalia. And what I found was that indeed some birds have penises, but it's very few of them. So only about 3% of birds have penises. Everyone else has lost their penis. So none of the little birds out of your feeder or anything like that, they don't have penises. But the tinamous happen to be one of those groups that have kept their penis because it's an ancestral condition, right? So it's shared with other vertebrates. And so they have a penis. Dogs have penises. Ostriches, rheas, kiwis, all of these older birds have penises.
Yeah.
And then we knew very little about them because nobody was studying them. And so again, at that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, exactly. Like little light bulb of like, it just again felt like an opportunity for me to do something that nobody else was doing.
Absolutely.
Nobody else knew anything about it. And I was like, oh, this is a cool question. I was like, okay, I'm going to write a project. And I wrote a project to like, get money so that I could do this as a postdoc because I was coming to the end of my PhD. And then I got the funding. So then I could actually do it. Yeah.
And did you ever think like that this would actually turn out to be your whole career? Or was it just a project at the time?
No, it was just a project. No, of course not. It was interesting because part of what I was doing with the tinamous was looking at paternity, right? So there's this idea that if the male is doing all this parental care, he should be absolutely sure that these are his babies. Right? Because otherwise he's getting duped. Like, why would he ever care for a bunch of babies who are unrelated to him? And so the fact that they had penises sort of seemed important in that context of like ensuring paternity somehow. So I was kind of like, interested in sort of that aspect of like, what is the penis for? Are they really using it for this paternity stuff and blah, blah, blah. But it turns out that what I found was that they're actually not the dads of a bunch of the babies that they take care of. Some males are sitting on eggs and not a single egg is his,
Oh my God.
I know, but is
the females dupe them.
Hell yeah.
They dupe them, but no, but it's just, it makes so much sense. Like sometimes in science you get like this, what we call these paradigms of like, that's what they should do. Animals should do this thing. And the animals don't read our papers. They just do whatever they're going to do.
Right. Good point. They don't.
And so what happens with the tinamous is that predation on those nests is super high because they're on the ground. The eggs are like right there. They don't even build a nest. It's like they just put eggs at the base of a tree and they're like, here, everybody have breakfast,
Yeah. They hungry.
So the eggs get eaten like 80% of the time. So if the male really wanted to make absolutely sure that all the babies were his, he would need to have that female with him for a very long time because the female is carrying sperm from other matings. And sperm can be viable inside of the female for a long time.
Oh, wow.
So he would have to wait and wait and wait. And then after all that waiting, he's going to have a nest. And then 80% of the time, that nest is going to get eaten. So it makes no sense. So what they do instead is they have sex with the female. Female gives them eggs, whatever eggs she's got ready to go. And then she goes on and lays his eggs in someone else's nest.
Oh.
You know what I mean? It's like it's
Yeah.
spreading the risk of
Yeah.
predation. And so then it works out. It works out because then, he does it. But that was kind of my interest in the penis at first, was like, how are they using it? And maybe try to get into this idea of why birds lost their penis, because it seems like such a handy tool for sperm conveyance. I was like,
most male species
No.
are pretty fans of their own penis to keep it around, I imagine.
they're big fans of them.
Yeah.
So
Right?
so that was it. But then again, plans completely changed, because my focus at the time was the penis, because I was like, weird. Penises for paternity, penises for why do they get lost? But then when it got down to it, and so I went to a farm. It turns out, I wasn't going to do penises on tinamous because they are really, really super hard to study. But ducks also have penises, and ducks are everywhere, and we eat them, and we keep them as pets. Like they're everywhere.
They are.
So I was like, okay, great, I'll do ducks. So I went to a duck farm, and I got a couple of ducks, and I brought them back to the lab, and I opened them up, and I see these penis, and I was like, oh my gosh, these things are enormous. It was a giant, white, bumpy, tentacle-looking thing. And so I literally was like, I dissected this thing, and it was like my first penis up front, up close and personal. I was like, whoa, this boy is big. I mean, it was a really big penis.
Holy
humongous.
Smokes.
And the second I look at it, I was like, oh my gosh. And so where does it go? What does the female look like? Right? Because up until that moment, I had been dissecting other birds. Again, because I was interested in looking at sperm and sperm storage. And so I had been dissecting vaginas in like zebrafinches and quail. And those vaginas were like a normal little tube. It's like a folded tube. And I had been looking at them, and I was like, okay, that's what a bird vagina looked like. But then when I saw this duck penis, I was like, there's no way. I was like, those females, they have to have something.
Because they're like corkscrew shaped or something. That's right.
Exactly. Right. So the penis spirals in a counterclockwise direction.
Okay.
And then the females spiral in a clockwise direction.
Oh,
right. So they're
perfect
counter.
match.
They're totally counter. But so I open up the female, and I, because I open the males. It was like, okay, we're penis, must go look at the females. I drove back to the farm where I had gotten the males. I asked the farmer to now give me 2 females. He gives me the females. I go back to the lab, open them up. And then I saw these crazy adaptations on the female. So the female vagina looks like a labyrinth. It doesn't look like a tube. So it has these crazy pouches and all these crazy spirals.
Wow.
And it was so bizarre that I was like, okay, what's going on here? Like, there is some serious coevolution happening with this genitalia that nobody knew about. Nobody. Yeah.
Wow.
And so that was
And they're ducks.
crazy. They're ducks. And
they're just everywhere. And no one knew that.
No one knew that. And of course, I'm a woman. I have a vagina, I was
You do.
like, wow.
Me too.
Yeah. And so, but I'm also, like the other thing is that I'm also Latina, right? And I grew up in a culture where, we make jokes about sex and whatever. It's not a huge taboo. It's not like we are, 100% comfortable with it either, but at least it's a little more permissible than other places where you can't even say these words, right?
Right.
And so that combination really sort of allowed me to be comfortable looking at these things and talking about them in an academic setting, which of course not everybody would be.
Yeah.
But then that really then changed everything else that I did afterwards, because then I really wanted to understand what was happening with this coevolution between the males and the females. And it just became this crazy feminist story without me having planned anything. I was just like, it was like, like everything, like you just follow the next curious thing you find, right? And then before you know it, you find yourself in a place where you're like, how did I get here? I don't even know, but this is amazing.
I love when the road does that.
Yeah. So curious.
And it just, and it does it multiple times. I have found.
Yeah.
And it's just.
So here you are doing this quiet, brilliant work on evolutionary biology, and you're
Yeah.
publishing and you're teaching at the time. And then it's 2013 and the phone rings. And
Oh,
where were you when you found out that Fox News was coming for your research?
yeah. So, what happened is that this story of the dog vaginas and the penises became really sort of viral. And it was covering all the news outlets. People were talking about it. People talked about it on TV, on the radio, podcasts, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
And it became a really popular story. And so I had set up a Google alert to let me know when people were talking about duck genitalia, because it was even like on a shaving commercial. Like I kid you not, it was like insane.
Fascinating.
And
Wow.
so I was curious to see like what are
Yeah.
people doing talking about duck genitalia all over the map. And so I had this Google alert, and I was at work. By that time, I had finished my postdoc at Yale, and I had moved to UMass, and so I was here. And I got this Google alert in my computer. Puchoing, somebody's talking about duck genitalia, and I went in to see. And it was the Christian News Service. Basically just wrote a story saying, $370,000 in a grant to Yale University to study duck penises, right? And it was kind of like just very factual. So I was like, oh, interesting. Okay. Interesting that they're talking about it.
Yeah.
But of course, then it immediately got picked up by all these ultra conservative sites and started coming up. Like my email was like exploding with like stories of people talking about it and how it was such a wasteful spending in the context of the sequestration. So politically, I don't know if you guys remember, that was the time when Obama was president and they couldn't agree on the budget. And so they said, we're going to cut everything by 10% until we agree on a budget. So that's what was happening with the politics. And so it just got picked up everywhere. And everybody was like, oh, so we don't have money to do children daycare, but we have money to study duck penises, right? And they were doing these crazy comparisons. That, of course, that's not how money works in the government.
No,
but people
not
don't
at
know
all.
that.
They don't understand. No.
No, people don't know that, and so yeah, it was really frightening.
That's so
Yeah,
scary.
Like, what did that make you feel like as a person, not as a scientist, but
Oh no, it was horrible. I mean, because as a scientist and as a person, like I struggled with imposter syndrome, which I'm sure.
Yeah.
You guys understand what that is, where you're like, when you're having some modicum of success, you're always like, people are going to find out soon enough that I actually don't know anything.
Right. Full of shit.
Even if you do, like I had a PhD from Cornell and a postdoc from Yale University, and I was still like, oh my gosh, I don't know anything.
Wow. You were straight legit, Patty.
I know, but I, in my brain, it's like it messes you up. And so I was really scared and worried. I felt terrible, but in a way I was like, yeah, people have found out that I suck and that I don't deserve to breathe air, Yeah, because personally it's really hard, like to hear that people are saying your work is a waste of money and all that. And so I was like crawling under the desk for a good week there. But then I started realizing that what was making me really upset was to not be a part of that conversation, right? To have other people drive the discourse about what was good or not good about what I was doing. Because there were actually people who were replying to this story saying, no, wait a minute, this is really great research for these reasons. And they were defending me, which was awesome.
Absolutely.
But I was not defending me. And so I was like, no, wait a minute, I need to like say my piece.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And it kind of like dawned on you that they don't know what I actually do. And so maybe that is why you wrote that Slate op-ed piece, like why I studied duck genitalia. To inform everyone what you're actually doing.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was a big part of it. But then there was also the part about setting the record straight about why basic science is important, right? Because what I do is basic science. It's not science that's meant to cure cancer or make money for anyone is discovery-based science. And why is that science important? Well, it is important because without it, there are no discoveries, there's no money, there's no cancer cure. You know, it's like a direct pipeline between basic science and applied science. But people don't understand that, right? And when you take it out of context and you make fun of it, oh, duck and penises sounds funny.
I mean,
then you know, then it really can be harmful to our understanding of science. And so,
of course.
So I was like, okay, I want to set the record straight. And then I want to talk about genitalia because, and I think in this piece, I just wrote a line. It was like, you know, you don't want the doctor to stop at your belt, right? Just because you don't like the idea of genitalia. Like genitalia are critically important evolutionarily and biologically.
Yeah.
It's how we're created. It's the whole kit and caboodle right there.
That's right. That's right. And so what was surprising about that part was the fact that, everybody had warned me that I was probably going to get a ton of hate mail because my name up until that moment wasn't associated with any of the stories, right? They were attacking the project. They weren't naming me.
Right.
And so they were like, oh, don't worry about it. You know, this will be forgotten in a few days. That's the news cycle. So, but I was like, no, I want to say something. Like I have something to say. And so I didn't heed that advice and I wrote this piece. And I was super worried because I thought, you know, now people are going to write me hate mail and all sorts of things. And so after I published that op-ed, you know, the next morning I opened up my computer and I was like, click.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, am I going to get a pile of like horrible things?
Oh, God.
And it was amazing. All I got was like this downpour of support, like so many people writing like, thank you so much for speaking up for science and for defending science. And so it was completely unexpected. There was one message I received that somebody wrote, you are a very stupid person. And I was like, yeah, sometimes I am a little, actually.
That's kind of nice, though. That's as mean as it got. They're like, you are a stupid person. Goodbye.
Yeah, it's like somebody saying, you know, poopy head.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm scared of facts, so you're dum-dum. Bye-bye.
Right, right.
But it's really sweet that they didn't get meaner. I love that.
No, exactly. And so it was amazing. And then it turned out into something really amazing because the fact that I wrote this piece and it went viral, it was picked up everywhere. It was all over TV. People were writing articles and calling me a hero for defending science. And I was like, oh my God, like all I was doing literally was getting it off my chest.
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest, I was like,
but how cool is that? Wow.
But how cool and how unexpected, you know, like you never know how these things are going to turn out. I was a little nervous, but I was like, I really need to do this, like for my own peace of mind.
Yeah.
And then it was really good. And so I developed a whole outreach program and I got invited everywhere. I wrote articles about this. And it ended up being a really good thing for my career, you know, in a way that I hadn't anticipated at all.
That's so cool, Patty. Wow. You also seem to have such a wonderful, and I know this comes along with science, to be just that curiosity, but also from what you've said so far, it sounds like you are very in tune with your still small voice, like the voice that kind of tells you what the next right thing to do is. So that's powerful because a lot of us, me included, like will not hear that voice so clearly and not able to see what the next right thing is. But like, I love that you spent time under your desk during that week. And then you said, I want to have a voice in this conversation. I'm not just passive here. Like, and then you came out and then the only negative thing was like someone stuck their tongue out at you apparently. Like, well, you know, so freaking cool, Patty. Wow.
Yeah. No, it's true. And you know, a lot of science is kind of like that. Is there's a lot of intuition that goes into it. And you know, I remember I had a conversation a long time ago with someone who's an artist, and I was saying, oh, you know, I am just not creative at all. And she looked at me and she's like, you're a scientist. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
and I was like, oh my gosh, she's totally right. Because there is a lot of creativity in a different way, right, than being an artist. But there's a lot of that intuition and way of thinking that sort of guides you through it and helps you think through the next thing that's going to be interesting. And so, so I think that certainly I understand
For
that connection a
sure.
little better now. Yeah.
You're a knowledge artist.
Ooh, I like that.
You're a KA girl. Knowledge
That's
artist.
right. I'm going to put that in my byline.
We all need to have t-shirts. I want to be like, I talked
A
with Patty, the knowledge artist.
We'll get some merchandise that says
For
that.
sure.
Hats,
I'm totally going to
t-shirts.
send that to you, Patty.
That's going to
right,
be the
that's right.
title of this episode.
The knowledge artist. Oh. God, that's so cool, Patty. Damn.
So what's the work you're proudest of that people never ask you about?
Ooh.
Oh yeah, that's a really good question. So I think it's a number of things. I would say in a weird way. So after the duck story, I could have stayed working with birds and their weird genitalia forever, because I never even got to the question of why birds lost their penis. I still don't know, and nobody does, because nobody's doing this research, right?
Mm-hmm.
But instead of doing that, what I realized is that the fact that I had discovered this crazy thing on the females in the ducks probably indicated that these things are everywhere, but nobody was looking. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, I can't possibly be that lucky. I can't be so lucky that the first system I look at, I find this evidence for this crazy evolutionary arms race because of forced copulations and all this crazy stuff. I can't be that lucky. So then how do I, see whether these things are more common? And that's when I decided to expand to all these other vertebrate systems, right? Because I was like, oh, let's have a look and see what's going on in other places. And so we found something similar, for example, in dolphins, right? And so dolphin vagina is the same. They're super convoluted, and dolphins are sexual harassers. And we did all this research that actually suggests that these convoluted dolphin vaginas give females some control, sexual autonomy, basically, over who's going to end up being the sire of their offspring. And I find that incredibly empowering, right? Like there's this idea that that males are somehow more active in these evolutionary events, and females are just sort of reacting in a way and just sort of more passive. But what I find over and over every time I look at all these systems is that the females are in fact super active evolutionary agents, right?
Yeah.
And they evolve in all sorts of weird ways, with weird vaginal shapes. They change the thickness of their vaginal walls. They change the density of the collagen in there. They change their behavior, of course. They change their physiology. Like they have so many weapons available to them to maintain control over their successful reproduction and their sexual autonomy. That's not a way that we generally think about these questions. And so I love that. I love that because I was not, I didn't plan for that. I didn't anticipate that. I just sort of followed that line, and I have become convinced that this is what happens, because every time I look, I find something really cool. Yeah. But then the other thing that happened is that as I was looking at all these vaginas, if you're looking at a vagina, you're going to be finding a clitoris. Because every amniote, right? So every vertebrate that's on land, they have a clitoris, because the penis and the clitoris evolve and develop from the same structure in the early development.
Right.
And so if you have this sort of undetermined structure that then either becomes a penis or becomes a clitoris. And it turns out that we actually, not surprisingly, we haven't been looking at the clitoris either in a lot of these creatures.
Shocking.
I know, exactly. Because, in humans, like we only discovered the full structure like back in the mid-90s, the three-dimensional
so
structure.
crazy.
I know.
It's
just crazy. And so we started looking, because we get all these different groups, and we started looking at the clitoris, and we have found so many cool adaptations in the clitoris of these different animals, and always evidence that these clitorises are functional, which says a lot about why females have sex. It's not just to have babies. Females are not just little reproductive machines. It is actually, a lot of it is because it feels good, right? And yes, of course, the ultimate reason is because if it feels good, you do more of it, which leads to more babies, and that's good.
Right.
But the motivation, really, pleasure is a wonderful motivator, right? And if sex feels good,
right,
then you're going to look for more of it, and you're going to have more of it. And so we're getting into this whole thing about pleasure and thinking about that part of animals' lives and females' lives in nature that really hasn't been part of the equation.
Wow.
So then you kind of, or your lab, and you kind of studied like the pleasure that animals get. And it's not just male, female, it's female, female, male, male. And that kind of led to the documentary that's been made called Second Nature. Tell us about that and all the work that your lab is doing.
Yeah. So, I mean, the documentary, I am one of many featured scientists who are all doing super cool stuff. It's actually rooted on John Roughgarden's book called Evolution's Rainbow. And John is the first openly trans scientist that we had in the States. And when she transitioned, she started really getting into understanding the evolution of diverse sexual strategies. And she wrote this book, which is a really super interesting, fun book where she's like cataloging a lot of this sexual diversity. But she was personally attacked for these because she had an agenda. Like she was inserting her personal agenda in her work, as if that's not what every scientist does, right? Because we're completely biased human beings out there doing research, not in a bubble, right? But like informed by who we are and what we do. And so I remember I was at Cornell University. I was a grad student when her book came out, and it was pretty shocking to see like the vitriol that she received for this work, and it was just crazy. But then when I started really getting into all of these, female behavior and why nobody's looking and all of that, and started really understanding how myopic our view of sex has been, which I didn't start with that, like you learn it as you go along because you're trained by the people who train you, and those people have a particular way of seeing the world, and then you just have to sort of break out of that. And so then, there are lots of different scientists who have worked on this. And so there's Amy Parrish, who's the person who described the bonobo societies, and that they're matrilineal, and that the females are the bosses, and they do this genital rubbing with each other. And just lots of different people. Franz de Waal, who's a primatologist, who described the males are not always aggressive and fighting each other and wanting to kill each other, but that they also reconcile and they make friends, because that's also a really good evolutionary strategy. So it's sort of like a documentary that's looking to disrupt that narrative of females are passive, and same-sex sexual behavior is weird and rare, and sex change is weird and rare, and so my lab is featured because we do talk a lot about, female empowerment in some ways, but also, like with the clitoris, dolphins, we describe the clitoris of the dolphin, and dolphin clitorises are huge. And they're super well developed. Like they show evidence of functionality. They even have the same genital corpuscles that humans have, that are known as the corpuscles of pleasure, that are really associated specifically with pleasure.
Okay.
And dolphins half the time they have sex with members of the same sex. So same-sex sexual behavior is not a weird thing that they do. It's like half the time they're having sex with members of their same sex. And so, there might be something there about the clitoris evolving as a response to pleasure, period, not just heterosexual sex, right? Which, of course, we don't really think about. In humans, by the way, I think something very similar may be going on, because the clitoris in humans moved away from the vaginal opening. Right. And we know that there's a lot of same-sex sexual behavior in humans, especially female-female behavior, which has never really been prohibited in most cultures. Like when the same-sex sexual behavior is banned, it's usually male-male sexual behavior. But female-female behavior, somehow everybody's like, we're not going to worry too much about that.
Right? Or the men like to watch it, right?
Right. That's it, Courtney.
It happens all the time. And so, these things, like these behaviors, when they're so common, they're going to influence evolutionary outcomes. And the problem is, of course, that we don't even know how common they are because scientists themselves, when we're collecting the data, we can be very biased, right? And we assume that if we see a male, an individual on top, an individual on the bottom, that's going to be a male and a female. And sometimes we just really don't know, right? So this documentary gets into all of that, and it is really fantastic. So it talks about sex-changing fish, which are super common, and yeah, it's just phenomenal.
You said it was screening right now, Patricia,
Yeah.
or Patty. But so do you know anything about when it will be available? Like, can you get it on Amazon?
No, I wish I knew. I know that they've been doing a lot of screenings, and if you go to their website, Second Nature documentary, if you Google that, it'll come out. They have like a list of upcoming screenings, and they've been doing screenings in a lot of big cities. But there's also a form where you can request a screening yourself, and that's awesome because I know that Drew, who's the director, she's fantastic. She's been working on this film for 10 years.
I can't
she talked to me during COVID. Like the first scenes of me in this documentary are like me wearing a mask and being totally sick.
Wow.
Not with COVID, but with a really bad cold. But that was the first time that we interacted was then. So she's been working on this for a long time. And what happened was that she sent an early cut of this film to Elliot Page's production company.
Oh, cool.
And so they watched it and they decided to support it because she was wondering whether he would be willing to narrate it.
Yeah.
And not only did he agree to narrate it, so he's the narrator, but also his production company gave some funding for them to be able to finish the film in a much better, better way.
Freaking cool. So awesome. I just read his biography. That's awesome.
His book is amazing. And I got to meet him and oh my gosh, he's like incredible. So
I can't even imagine.
Totally starstruck. I think he's awesome.
Yeah,
so,
I bet.
So yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful film, and I hope people get to see it. But when it will be released, sort of like out there into the world, and I really don't know. I hope soon. I hope they can recoup some money and.
Well, and I'm in Southwest Virginia, so I'm going to request a screening, and I'm gonna hit them hard with some requests and be like, we could really use them.
Yes, I know exactly. Yeah. I mean, everybody. Like, name one person who would not benefit from understanding sex better. Period.
Yeah, I don't know anybody.
There's just not a single human in this planet who would not benefit from that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
that's true.
But I'm biased.
I agree. Right. I know. There's a certain group of folks that would learn the most, I think, but I won't name them.
That's right. That's right. And they're probably the ones who are not going to watch the documentary.
Exactly. No, I'm not. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to do an impression. I'm going to get offensive here. But wow, like
I know. It's so cool. I can't wait to watch that film.
Seriously.
Patty, if you could go back and stand on the deck of the Odyssey with your younger self, just the one who wanted to scuba dive around the world, what would you tell her?
Oh, man, keep an open heart and an open mind.
You said that to me because you said you have to keep an open heart and an open mind to possibility because you never know.
You never know. I think I already knew it in some very fundamental way. But of course, when you're that young, you're just kind of like following the next thing, right? But I think that I think I did it right. I kept my heart open, and I've always tried to do that, and it's never failed. So far, it's never failed. There've been hard moments, but it's life.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's that's normal. But man, it's been a ride.
Wow. So cool.
It sure has. My God, what a journey.
I need to get a better word for Patty. I'm like, it's so cool. Like, you're a scientist. I want to get a really like, wow, neato. Talk to me more about it. Now, I have a quick question for you, Patty. This is just very quick because as I'm listening to you talk, a lot of women in my life at a young age wanted to be a marine biologist, and then they ended up going into something else. And I, the whole time, was being like, I want to be a marine. I want to be a biologist. I don't have the smarts for it. But the part I think that I struggle with, and I wonder if you would all struggle with it, like when you talked about going to get the ducks, and then you said, I brought the ducks home and I opened them up and I was like, oh shit. So the ducks get killed. Is that hard for you? I feel like it's got to be, but as a scientist, you see the benefit of where it all comes from or
Oh,
what it
absolutely.
leads to.
So, I'm a vegetarian because I love animals, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't want
Yeah.
to eat anybody,
No,
like,
of course not.
and so what I would say is that there are some animals that, like ducks that come from a farm. I
Mm-hmm.
have very little qualms with that because they're being bred for this,
Right.
they're
Right.
super abundant. So that is a little bit easier. I worked very, very hard over the years to not have to kill anybody. And so I
Yeah.
collaborate with a bunch of scientists. And I think this is very common with scientists, actually, is that if you're going to collect any specimens for anything, it's like a crazy network of people who are like, I want the brain, I want the stomach, I want the
Oh.
intestine, I want the genitalia. It turns out nobody ever wanted the genitalia because nobody was looking. So I just lucked out that I was like, oh, send me all the genitals. That's right. And so, but yes, of course. And you would never find a scientist. I guarantee you will never find a scientist who's going to say, no, it's easy.
No, I wouldn't think
Killing
so.
an animal is easy. Is never easy. Is never pleasant.
Mm-mm.
Sometimes it's necessary and justifiable, and that's okay.
Absolutely.
But I would say for people who are really worried about animal rights and all of that, I think farming is the place where you should go for better regulations and better limitations of what we do to animals. I think
Yeah.
the number of animals that get used for scientific purposes is dwarf
Yeah.
by orders of magnitude when you compare to
Yeah.
what's going on at farms.
Absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I just can't, I have to salute the scientists to be able to have to override that, that of course it's not going to be easy. Like that's just another amazing step that scientists are doing. Like it's a part, you're taking one for the team, essentially. You're doing the unpleasantness to move us forward as a species in knowledge artistry. There it is.
Yeah. But again, a lot of these things end up, all these specimens end up in museums where like students will be able to look at them forever. Right. And so that's, again, it's a way of like being very responsible about
Absolutely
what you do and, making sure you publish your data and that you really honor the animal by being careful with the data that you collect from them.
It's incredible. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So powerful.
Yeah. Patty, what's one of the kindest things someone has ever done for you? It can be recent, whatever it is that comes to your mind.
Big, small. Yeah.
Oh, big, small. One of the nicest things my mom would do when I was little, well, not little, but like when I was a teenager and I had to get up and go to school and go to work, she would wake me up with a cup of coffee and she would just bring it to my bedside table and just kind of put it there. And so I would wake up in the morning and it would be like the smell, of coffee. And I would be like, oh, okay, it's time to wake up. And, my husband, despite the fact that he doesn't drink coffee himself, he's finally figured out that this is something that really makes me very, very deeply happy. And so he'll make me coffee in the morning and then he'll do the same. And it's a little act of kindness that I just so appreciate.
Absolutely. Oh, that's so wonderful. What was your mom's name? What's your mom's
My
name?
mom, Ligia, she's still with us. Thank goodness.
Ligia.
Oh my gosh.
Yay, Ligia. Wow. She was the barista for a budding scientist. It's
That's
just
right.
amazing.
That's right.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
How
Courtney, do you have any
wonderful.
other questions?
Okay. What is your favorite duck, Patty? You have to
my
choose it.
gosh.
One duck that's your absolute favorite.
My favorite duck is probably the harlequin. Harlequin ducks.
Harlequin.
Yeah, and those are sea ducks, right? So you mostly would see them out on the coast. But they are the most gorgeous duck, first of all. I mean, they really are spectacular. And they don't have any forced copulations. So they don't do the nasty thing that all the other dogs are doing. They're not the rapist duck. They are so nice and wonderful. And so they are definitely on top of my list.
another T-shirt with the Harlequin duck that just says "Not a rapist." That'll make people talk, right? Like, what's
That's
up with your
right.
shirt? Well,
And
let me
clearly
tell
I need to
you,
recruit you for like t-shirt making for my lab because
girl. For some
you know,
reason, that is hot on my brain. I am ready.
yeah, I
Not a
want one. I
rapist.
want one that says like all vagina or something like
Oh,
that. Like,
yeah. All the vaginas all the time.
all the vaginas all the time. That's it. I like that. Yeah.
Give me your genitalia. No one gets
Give
hurt.
me your
Oh my Lord.
genitalia.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we could really we need to do some workshops on t-shirt making for you. I would love to be a part of that.
Absolutely. No, that's amazing.
What a freaking pleasure, Patty. This has just been my face hurts from
I
smiling and
know.
it's so wonderful. It's like I left my life for a while and just lived in the incredible adventure of Patty. Just so freaking cool. Thank you so much for letting me live vicariously through your experience. Like, and I'm sure we just heard a tiny smidgen of
I
what,
know.
the broad, but wow, so phenomenal.
Patty, do you have anything you'd like to plug, like books you have coming out or anything like that?
Oh
Or...
my gosh. So no books that I have coming up personally, but books that I absolutely love that feature my work in some way.
Yeah.
And they're great. So one is Vagina Obscura by Rachel Gross. It's the most incredible book. You guys will read the intro and then you'll be like, oh my gosh, it's like amazing.
Oh my gosh.
Vagina Obscura is great.
Mm-hmm.
Bitch by Lucy Cook.
Oh, I like it.
Another phenomenal book, basically talking about how females, the story of females in biology hasn't really been told properly. And she takes all this evidence that's always like, oh, this is weird. Like hyenas are weird. And, marmosets are weird. And then she puts it all together and you can see just how phenomenally diverse and strong females are in nature. And it's just a lovely book. And then there is a book that's just coming out. It's called Poking the Squid. And it is actually, I know, do you know what that means? Poking the squid?
It
Oh my gosh,
sounds sexual.
Apparently it's Irish slang for having sex. I didn't know. I had to look it up.
It sounded, poking always makes me think of some reference to sex. So.
Yeah. And so this is Perry Ireland, who it's an artist, and she's a phenomenal artist. And she basically has made this beautiful illustrated book of sex in nature, talking to a bunch of different scientists. And she has a really interesting kind of like humanistic perspective on the whole thing. So there are all these thought bubbles and things that are happening in this book that are hilarious and beautiful. And so I really enjoyed that one as well. And that one just came out like a couple of months ago. So highly recommend. We read it for the summer with my students, my research students, and we just laugh our heads off and learned a lot. So those are all good.
For our listeners out there, we'll put those in the show notes so you can reference and find those books. Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Well, Patty, thank you so very much for coming on today and sharing your story. It has just been a treat.
An
honor.
honor.
Oh my God. An honor. Yes. Oh, we're so fortunate to have you on. I know, and sharing your story. To all of our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in today. Please do not forget to download, go and subscribe to our podcast, rate us, review us. We love those 5 stars.
We need it. Give it to us.
That you'd like to ask Patty, please email us at thatwasn'ttheplanpod@gmail.com, and we will get those questions over to Patty and answer those for you.
Give us a reason to keep talking to Patty. I wanted to be best friends with Patty, so
I know.
Send us the questions.
Well, Patty, Courtney, thank you so much. It's been a
thank you,
pleasure.
Emily. Thanks,
morning.
Patty.
My God.
Absolutely.
So
thank you so much.
Oh, what a wonderful treat.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.